She told Mum and me that she wouldn't rest until Dad was a free man. I knew that even as they were waiting to lead Dad out of the prison and up to the scaffold, Killarney had been busy making desperate phone call after desperate phone call. Obviously, the phrase "a lost cause" wasn't part of her vocabulary. Funny, it seemed to be a major part of mine. The man who'd stopped the execution walked up to the steps of the scaffold. He nodded to the guard, who immediately took the hood off my dad's head. Dad blinked crazily for a few moments, his eyes wide like he was in the middle of a nightmare, and even with his eyes open he couldn't wake up. The governor walked up to Dad and said something to him. It looked like he had to repeat it, asking Dad if he understood. Dad shook his head. The governor put one hand on Dad's shoulder. Dad nodded. Murmurs sprung up through the audience. This not knowing is killing me. What was going on? The governor raised his hands for silence. Ladies and gentlemen and noughts, I am Governor Gustini. I've just this moment been informed that Ryan Callum McGregor has received a reprieve. His sentence has been commuted to life imprisonment. There will be no hanging today. Long live the Dad's knees buckled, as if the ground had suddenly disappeared beneath him. The prison officer standing beside him only just managed to grab him in time to stop Dad from keeling over completely. And then the whole place erupted. It was only because there was tall metal barriers between us and the scaffold that it remained in one piece. Our fury was so deep. We were all drowning in it. We wanted to get Dad, to sweep him away, to get him out of there, but we couldn't get to him. Mum tried to pull me back, and I was tried to pull me back, but I was one of the first to push and shove my way forward. Dad, Dad, I yelled until my throat, but the sight of voices around me carried my words away. Dad was hurried down the scaffold steps and back into the prison, along with the governor, but that didn't stop us. We could have torn down Humid Prison, brick by brick. We would have, but we couldn't get past the barriers. I turned my head whilst being pushed forward, turned to where they were sitting. I couldn't see her. Where was she? Watching all this and enjoying the free entertainment? The crosses were all leaving in a hurry. We were penned in and had to stand up like cattle. They had seats. We were herded in through the side gate and ushered to our part of the courtyard. The crosses got to drive in and sit down, like they were having a night out or a ballet or going to the cinema or something. Each one of us was scanned and searched. I bet not a single cross was even stopped. And then they wondered why we hated them so much. People were beginning to get hurt. I saw a man in front of me fall, and whilst those around him tried to help him up, the ones behind him still pushed forward. There were screams and shouts and shrieks and chaos, and I loved it. Because it was just what I needed. A place to shout and kick out, where no one could stop me because I was just one of many. At that precise moment, I felt like I could rip the metal barriers out of the concrete beneath my feet with my bare hands. I was invincible because I was filled with rage. It was a giddy feeling, and I revelled in it. Someone grabbed my arm. I turned, ready to lash out. It was Mum. "Callum," she shouted, "let's get out of here. I want to see your dad." "Mum!" And just like that, all my anger that was just about to break out subsided. I stood watching Mum, waiting for the pain inside to dampen down, waiting for the world around me to turn multicoloured again, and instead of blood red. "Come on!" Mum pulled after her, in the opposite direction to the crowd, and with an overwhelming sense of regret and frustration, I let her. Okay, very, very tense couple of chapters. So Ryan McGregor about to get hanged, and suddenly he's saved. Kalani Adams saves him, and he gets life in prison instead. And Callum and the other Naughts are absolutely distraught, and they cause a riot in the crowd. And Callum is filled with anger. It's the first time we see Callum properly say, "I turned to where they were sitting," and he says it with such angst and annoyance and frustration. So we can see he's really turning against crosses now. The system is really turning him into someone who hates the crosses, as much as the crosses blindly hate the Naughts. So this has just created more division. 77, Sephi. "Don't you ever do that to me again. Don't talk to me like that," Mother frowned. But I was too far gone by now. Dad had gone straight back to his office in one of his colleagues' cars, leaving me, Mother and Minerva to go home alone. And with each passing second, the fury in me had dug deeper and deeper. Mother had just come home and gone straight to the kitchen. Minnie ran up to her room. I followed Mother. "How dare you take me to that thing? How dare you?" "We had to go. It was our duty." Mother took a half-empty bottle of Chardonnay out of the fridge. "Our duty? To see a man get hanged?" "Yes." Mum poured out some wine into a tumbler. "Because like it or not, we have to support your dad, whether or not we agree with what he's doing." "But that was barbaric, taking us to watch a man die. Dad's sick. So are you." "I didn't like it any more than you did." Mother downed her half pint of wine without even gasping. "Liar, you couldn't take your eyes off it. I saw you." "I wasn't watching," Mother said quietly, pouring herself another drink. I'd had enough by then. I snatched the bottle out of her hand and threw it across the kitchen. It hit one of the cupboards and bounced off and spun around on the floor, but it didn't break. What little wine there was left trickled out in a silent puddle. "Go to your room," Mother stormed at me. Finally, a reaction, and it left me cold. "You really don't care, do you?" I said, making no attempt to hide my disgust. You would have cared more if they were hanging a bottle of wine instead of a person." Mother slapped me hard, but I was ready for it this time. I turned back to face her almost immediately. "There's wine spilling out over there. Go and lick it up then. You wouldn't want to waste any, would you?" Mother gasped, a sound she tried to smother at once, but she was too late. I heard it. "Waiting for me to leave before you can get on your hands and knees?" I sneered. "Okay then, I'll leave you to it." Mother grabbed my arm and swung me around to face her. "You don't know every damn thing, Persephone," she hissed at me. "You think you're the only one hurting here. Ryan McGregor was my friend. So was Maggie McGregor. Do you think I wanted to see him hang?" "Why did you go then?" I shouted at her. "One day you'll realise that you can't always do what you want in this life. And when you realise that, maybe you'll think of me," Mother told me. "I want to think of you as little as possible," I said bluntly. You say they were your friends. Nothing would make me go to a hanging with one of my friends. Nothing. Not even Dad." I tried to help," Mother whispered. "How? By getting blind drunk before and afterwards? You stupid girl. Who do you think paid for their lawyer and all their legal fees?" Mother took hold of my shoulders and shook me. "I prayed and paid and did everything I could to make sure Ryan wouldn't hang. What more could I have done? You tell me." "You paid for their lawyer?" Mother turned away from me. "Yes, and that's not to leave this room, and not for the reason you think either." "That was just your guilty conscience," I told Mother. "You've never done anything for anyone other than yourself in your life, so go back to your bottle. You've earned it." And I ran out of the room knowing Mother was watching. I bolted up the stairs like the devil himself was chasing me. Strange how you can cry, don't you think? Strange how many tears you can hold inside. I lay on my bed and cried until my whole body shook and my head pounded like a pneumatic drill. And even then I couldn't stop. And I knew no one would hear me cry either. Minnie's room was next to mine, but our rooms were practically soundproofed. So I didn't need to bury my head under my pillow or choke back my sobs. I just cried. For Callum, for his dad, for the day, and for myself. I admit it. Okay, so in 77, we've now learned that not Maggie McGregor, that Mrs. Hadley was the one who paid for Kalani Adams because she used to be friends with Ryan McGregor and Maggie, because Maggie was her cleaner and her friend. So again, we're seeing that Seffi's mother is a very deep character. She's got a lot going on. She's very, very dependent on wine and drink, but she tried to do a good thing by getting Kalani Adams. And to be honest, that seems to be the reason that Ryan McGregor is getting life in prison and not hanging. Again, another thing to notice between 76 and 77 is that Callum is insanely angry, but so is Seffi. They both have the same emotion towards the situation. 78, Callum. 2 hours and a lot of arguing from our solicitor later, we were finally allowed in to see Dad. Mr. Stanhope, our solicitor, said he'd wait for us outside as we were shown into the visitors' hall. Mum and I sat in silence, our eyes trained on the door. At last the door opened and I almost wished it hadn't. Another anonymous prison officer entered, followed by Dad, and he looked terrible, half deflated and pale as a ghost. On the scaffold he'd been tall and straight, and in a funny way I'd felt so proud of him. But now he looked old, stooped and shrunken into himself. Mum stood up. I did the same. Dad saw us, but he didn't smile. Mum opened her arms. Dad walked into them, and they hugged silently for a long, long time. I hear I'm being blamed for the riot outside, said Dad, his voice almost a monotone. He pulled away and sat down. All of us, except the prison officer, did the same. I glared at him. What, was he going to just stand there, listening to our private conversation? Obviously he was. How are you, Ryan? Mum couldn't care less what was happening outside. How do you think? Dad said, bitterness modulating his voice slightly. At least you're still alive. I'm grateful for that. I'm not. I was ready to die, said Dad somberly. Ryan, I mean it, Maggie. Do you really think I want to stay here, rotting away in a prison cell? They should have hanged me. It would have been kinder. Don't say that, Mum cried. Why not? It's the truth, isn't it? Mum glanced down, struggling for something to say. The click of the door had us turning around. Kalani Adams swept in, her arms out, her expression triumphant. We all stood up. Kalani hugged each of us in turn, even hugging me for good measure. Well, we've won the first battle, on to the next one, Kalani nodded. I've already launched an appeal and, with all due respect, Miss Adams, this is as far as you'll get, Dad interrupted. Oh, no, it's not, Kalani denied. I'm calling in every favour I'm owed and then some. You're innocent on these charges and I'm going to prove it. Mum grasped Kalani by the hand, her smile sincere. I want to thank you for your help in all this, Miss Adams. If it wasn't for you, your thanks are a tad premature, Kalani returned Mum's smile. But that's okay. She turned to Dad. What we need to do now is, Kalani, it's over, said Dad. They didn't kill me quickly, they just decided to draw it out instead. I'll never see the outside of this prison and we both know it. The conviction in Dad's voice silenced us all, but only momentarily. You may know it, but I certainly don't, said Kalani firmly. But I don't think Dad hurt her. Ryan, please don't give up, Mum begged. There's still hope. We can appeal. There's lots of things we can do. I don't want you to do anything. There has to be a way out of here, and I'll find it, said Dad. Ryan? Mum was worried. It's okay, love. I've got it all figured out, said Dad. I shook my head slowly as I watched Dad, before stopping abruptly when I realised what I was doing. I glanced up at the officer. He was still looking straight ahead, but now his expression was troubled rather than neutral. He glanced down at Dad, then turned to Mum and shook his head. I don't wish to interfere, he began softly, but please tell your husband there is no way to escape from this prison. He's been talking about nothing else since his reprieve. Tell him the security gates are guarded at all times and the fence is electrified 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Mum looked from the guard to Dad. Ryan, you're not going to do anything stupid, are you? Promise me. Dad smiled, a slow, frightening smile, and opened his mouth to answer, but at that moment the buzzer sounded. Ryan, please, trust me to do my job, Kalani said to Dad. I will get you out of here. You have to believe it. I'm afraid visiting time is over, the officer said. Dad headed for the door. Ryan, Mum called after him. Maggie, don't worry about me. I'm getting out of here, said Dad. You just see if I don't. As he carried on walking away from us towards the exit, the prison officer nodded politely to my mother and Killarney. Killarney nodded back, but Mum didn't even see him. She was watching my father leave. The prison officer followed Dad out of the room. Mum muttered something to herself, utterly desolate. What did you say? I asked her as gently as I could. Mum turned to me, tears in her eyes. He didn't even say goodbye. 79 Seffi. Okay, we're going to leave it there. We're going to leave it at 79 today, guys. Okay, so we'll have gotten 10 chapters read, which is pretty good. So 79. So what do we have there? The last little chapter we read. Essentially what we have is Ryan McGregor thinks that he's going to be able to escape prison. So that's the next step in the story. See what he does there. So a very exciting bit of reading. We have we went from the trial to Ryan being sentenced to hanging, to execution. Then we move to Seffi getting ready for the execution, dressing up in her best dress, coming in a Mercedes, while Callum and all the other knots are shipped in like cattle. She realizes she's at Ryan's execution and he's just about to be hanged when they cut in and they say that he's actually got a reprieve, or his sentence has been changed to life in prison. Then after that, we have a riot in the prison where Callum is absolutely furious with anger. Then we move to Seffi's house where she's furious with her mother. Sorry, Nick, I didn't know that. Somebody must be doing that. I need to change the permissions on this because someone is acting the maggot then. So then we move from Seffi. So Seffi is in her house and she's absolutely furious with her mother, pissed off with her. And we learn that Seffi's mother is the person who hired Killarney Adams for Ryan. Seffi's mother was actually the one who saved Ryan. And then in the next chapter, we learn that we meet Ryan in the cell. Killarney Adams comes in to celebrate and say that she's going to get Ryan off the life imprisonment as well. But Ryan has kind of gone a bit mad. And he's now saying that he's going to escape from prison. So we need to see what his movements are. So we finished on chapter 79. And this is Tuesday the 16th. So I will see you all. We don't have class tomorrow and you're off tomorrow. So enjoy that very much. Okay. I will see you all on Thursday. Okay, for class. We will be reading the novel on Thursday. And then I will be giving you a short writing task to do that day as well. So I hope everyone is all right. I hope you're getting on okay. And I will see you all then. Have a lovely day off tomorrow. And if you need me for anything in the meantime, just drop me a message. All right?
Bye, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you.